Hi, I'm Nick Elsmore, Chief Apiarist at securitycolony.com. We're one of the world's largest cybersecurity collaboration platforms. If you work in cybersecurity, sign up for a free account at securitycolony.com and you can get access to a whole bunch of resources that'll make your day-to-day job a lot easier. Today I'm going to be talking about the key response trend that we're seeing in response to the threat trends that I've talked about in another video that you can find probably somewhere near this one. The key response trend that we're seeing is this concept of collaboration. Now, that's not just based on self-interest, the fact that we have a cybersecurity collaboration platform. It's really based on the economics of cybersecurity. And what I mean by that is it just is not economically possible or economically efficient for any single organization to solve the problem themselves. So whether it's through threat sharing, sharing information with other organizations about indicators of compromise and indicators of threats that you're seeing, whether it's through sharing resources, or whether it's through using managed services so that you're effectively sharing the cost of security infrastructure, collaboration is going to become a bigger and bigger part of every organization's response to the cybersecurity threat. To give you an example of what that looks like in practice, over the last 6 months, we've probably delivered 3 or 4 projects developing requests for information or requests for proposal for our clients, looking at whole suites of managed security services. Generally, they've included SOC, Security Operations Center, and SIEM, Security Incident and Event Management. They've included vulnerability management, and they've also included elements of incident response and threat intelligence. And in each of those cases, it's been an organization that's been looking for that next step in their cybersecurity capability, but have realized that trying to do that internally, trying to fund a SOC themselves, trying to staff a SOC themselves, is just not going to be workable. And so the managed security services market is really getting a significant boost from this whole collaboration push. The other interesting trend that we're seeing at the moment is a lot of these projects are actually being created with a push coming from the board or from senior executive management. And things like the recent ASX 100 survey that was released give an indication of how security is now starting to be perceived and understood at the board. And the cybersecurity strategy over the last year has really helped to raise that awareness at the board level, which is making a significant difference to the way organizations are actually approaching cybersecurity and the amount that they're willing to invest in trying to solve the problem. Now, largely as a result of that increased board awareness and board interest, we're seeing the scale and the type of cybersecurity project change significantly as well. Whereas over the last few years, there were often point solutions being put in place or quite narrow cybersecurity projects being attempted. What we're now seeing is boards really pushing organizations for comprehensive cybersecurity roadmaps and plans that span for 1, 2, 3, or even in some cases 5 years. And those roadmaps are then being pursued, being monitored, and being tracked very consistently and very effectively through organizations. And these roadmap projects and these planning projects are really becoming a significant part of the cybersecurity environment at the moment. Looking less at specific technical solutions and more at how organizations are approaching cybersecurity broadly, we're also starting to see some organizational changes. And if you think about some of the history of how cybersecurity or the roles in cybersecurity have evolved already, if you go back far enough, we really didn't have security roles at all. And then when they started, we had the concept of an IT security manager, because security was largely considered a technical topic. That then evolved into the information security manager type role as we recognized that this wasn't just something that was left to the IT department. From information security, it then moved into cybersecurity as it was realized that it wasn't technical, it wasn't just about information, it was really about the whole organization. It was about all the business processes and all those components. And the last part of the step that we're now seeing is this move from cybersecurity into trust. And the move from cybersecurity into trust is a reflection of the fact that cybersecurity is now no longer something internal to an organization. It's something that organizations recognize they actually need to tell their customers about. And so we are seeing organizations actually moving from having a chief security officer to having a chief trust officer. and that's something we expect to see more of in coming years. A similar change that we're seeing is the creation of a role called a customer data advocate. And the concept of a customer data advocate is, with all the additional focus on privacy, with things like mandatory data breach disclosure, is actually having someone within the organization whose role is to speak up for customers and the protection of their data. For example, in the new mandatory data breach disclosure approach, there's the necessity to consider whether or not a breach is at risk of causing serious harm. An interesting question in that discussion is who is actually speaking for the customer whose data has been lost? And that's where this concept of a customer data advocate comes in. And we expect that that role is going to become more and more prevalent in organizations. It's unlikely to be a dedicated full-time staff member, but it's likely to be someone specifically allocated the role of speaking on behalf of the customer in protection of their data. The last interesting trend that we're seeing and that I expect we're going to continue to see is this approach to helping customers help themselves. Now, the best example here is MailChimp. MailChimp actually offer a 10% reduction in your fees if you turn on two-factor authentication. So effectively, they are using price as a driver to help you improve your own security. They're helping their customers help themselves and incentivizing their customers to help themselves, which again ties back very neatly to this concept of collaboration, which is that we're not just collaborating with our peers, with other organizations, we also need to collaborate with our customers. Ultimately, we need our customers to be more secure in order for us as organizations to be more secure as well. And so we expect we're going to see a lot more of this over the coming years as well. So those are a few specific response trends that we're seeing. It's not intended to be a comprehensive list of everything every organization is doing. There are some other macro trends as well. For example, organizations are continuing to invest much more heavily in detection and response processes and technologies than they had previously for many, many years. But hopefully the response trends that we've just talked about are a little bit different from those that have been written about everywhere else and give you some interesting perspective on what organizations are actually doing. Thanks again for joining, and of course it would be remiss of me, given the topic of collaboration, to not make one more call out to Security Colony. Please do sign up, securitycolony.com. It's a great platform, there's a free level of access, and it'll help you with your cybersecurity job day to day. Thanks for joining us.